If you were to just chop the digestive tract in half, it would be like a tube, almost like rolling up a carpet. And you've got all these little finger-like projections all around this tube, right? If it's real food, our stomachs break down proteins and liberate all the individual amino acids, fatty acids, etc. Then we absorb the nutrition in our small intestine via microvilli. So you've got villi, you've got millions of these things. And on top of that, you've got thousands of other little micro projections called microvilli. And these little levers pull nutrients into the bloodstream via different transporters and channels, which are different things, by the way. Basically, you've got a gut barrier, right? And we want to maintain the integrity of this gut barrier. It's like a mucosal layer made up of epithelial cells, and these come together to form tight junctions. And these junctions are important to maintain the integrity of the gut. So certain things you can put in the human body, and technically it never enters the body, right? It goes in to the top of the tube, comes out at the bottom of the tube. That's fiber. It's not something that we absorb into the bloodstream. And then, of course, we eat to nourish ourselves. So we do want some things coming into the bloodstream, fatty acids, amino acids, vitamins, and minerals. And so when we consume real food, the epithelial cells almost recognize these things. And then you have the little microvilli that pull nutrients in. This is transcellular transport, right? Now you have paracellular transport. Rather than nutrients and things coming through the cells, it goes in between cells. And this can only happen really when these junctions open up. And you have a protein molecule called zonulin, which seems to be the modulator, the mediator, if you like, of how permeable or how porous our gut barrier is. Take grains as an example, because I think it's very common that people consume grains, whole grains specifically, okay? Two different proteins that can be very, very problematic. Gluten is probably the most well-known. Gluten, you have two components, glutenin and gliadin. Now, our stomach isn't very well equipped to break the bonds, snap the bonds, these chemical bonds that hold all these amino acids together. With animal proteins, we liberate these very, very well indeed. You won't find a structure larger than a tripeptide. The tripeptide is the maximum that a protein structure can be for absorption. Any more than that can't be absorbed, so that's inflammatory. So say you've just eaten some whole grains. Not only do you have gluten, you have wheat germ agglutinin, and even in gluten-free products, this is present. We struggle to break this down. Now we have a large protein structure tumbling through the digestive tract. It zaps and damages the microvilli. So these little projections that are responsible for absorbing nutrition, you actually deplete your capacity to absorb nutrition when you eat these things. But another thing that happens is you now have large fragments of gliadin, this gliadin component specifically of gluten that attaches to the surface of epithelial cells, right? A receptor, specifically CXCR3. And it's caused for a release of zonulin. So what happens is it now grants access. So it has to open these junctions wider, and it stays open for longer. So rather than it being appropriate, it's inappropriate, it's excessive. Now all of a sudden you have problematic molecules that can now enter the blood, and that's a problem. This offsets autoimmunity, and all autoimmunity, it's sitting on a foundation of leaky gut. And so you have different molecules entering into the blood where you didn't want them in the blood. And the whole reason why this happens is because we're consuming inappropriate foods to begin with, like whole grains. But there isn't any one way this can happen. You can potentially breathe in certain molecules. You could take medications. Seed oils, they cause oxidative stress because they contain an oxidized polyunsaturated fatty acid. The moment they're exposed to too much light, certainly heat in the pan, even olive oil can actually do this. We oxidize these fatty acids and they come along, it increases reactive oxygen species. And through a cascade of events, this basically means that we're killing cells outright to do with the structural integrity of the gut barrier. And this is what it is. It's all about structural integrity. These things that cause a problem, open junctions, and now we have particles we don't want entering the bloodstream. You've got LPS, which is lipopolysaccharide. It's basically a molecule that's an important component to the membrane of a particular biota in our gut. But it belongs in the gut. It doesn't want to go into the bloodstream. Just to note, actually, that LDL can kind of deal with this LPS in the bloodstream because it binds to it and gets rid of it. Yeah, intestinal permeability can happen from so many different angles. There's not just one way. But really, when we're eating species appropriately, that's just not going to happen. It's the things we're not used to consuming in abundance frequently that can cause these issues, which makes a lot of sense, really.
Okay, wow, that was an incredible answer. Well done.